Happy Thanksgiving, but there is something I want to address about Thanksgiving, and I try to do this every single year. We'll talk about that. There is really good news with young people and President Trump. And there's this guy, and he's super controversial, man. He's so controversial. I know this because CNN has announced he's controversial. And the thing that he does is so utterly controversial, it's going to cause controversy. He also happens to be a guy who's very, very scary. So scary. He's got long hair. Sometimes he wears boots. I've heard that he's openly same-sex attracted, and maybe that's it. Maybe CNN's all now hating on same-sex attracted men. But man, is he controversial. We'll talk about that. The Feds versus Gen Z. President Donald John Trump will do this with the help of our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@the Todd Herman Show, and with God Almighty.
The Todd Herman Show is 100% disapproved by big pharma, technocrats, and tyrants everywhere. Now, from the high mountains of free America, here's the Emerald City exile, Todd Herman.
Today is the day the Lord has made, and these are the times in which God has decided we shall live. Hey, this doesn't happen very often. This is super, super cool. I started taking a supplement, and no, this is not an ad. I just wanted you to know I started to take a supplement called Wisdom. It's herbal oil, and it is very, very good for relaxation, immunity, bone health, etc. So I told Radio America Sales about this. Like, this stuff is killer, and it's biblical, by the way. The guy who created this did this using what was used in the Bible to help people feel better and herbal treatments, etc. So just toss this note out there. Hey, FYI, if ever, turns out they listen to the cast and are aware of the cast, so we may well have them come on. And it's weird when you run into people that way. That's, oh, wait, so you know who I am? That's always kind of a mind blower to me. Every Thanksgiving, I try to do this because I think it's vitally important for us, the body of Christ, to know that when a member of the body is hurting, all of us should hurt. And when you are saying Happy Thanksgiving to people, understand that there's some people who can't receive that. They want to feel that way, and they don't. And they want to go be around people, and they feel they can't. So one of the things I want to relate to people is people who are in deep states of depression, in that valley we talk about sometimes. Evangelicals love to talk about the valley experience. That being around happy people, intact families, etc., is incredibly painful for them. So if you are that person and that's painful for you, man, that sucks. That is such a hard and difficult place to be. So I do hope you're able to find a way to be around people, and perhaps it's one-on-one. But I would encourage you to speak the words. I would encourage you to share with at least one intimate friend that Thanksgiving is hard for you and that you don't want to be invited to parties and you don't want to go be alone in a room full of people, that you would rather be alone with a good friend and in that way not be lonely. If you don't have that, man, I don't have anything to say to you because I've been there. And I can just tell you it is incredibly difficult. And please do not imagine this as your future. Don't imagine this as the next year or 5 years or even next 6 months. When you do that and you imagine and you worry, you violate something God tells us, which is, the sparrows in the field are not worried about what they're going to wear or eat. And look, God takes care of them. How do you add one year to your life through worry? And by the way, how do you add one bit of goodness through your life, to your life through worry? There's this statement that secular people make is worrying is borrowing a problem you don't yet have. I would say this, if you've decided this is your life, you have decided that God is incapable of changing it. And if you make that decision that God is incapable of changing that, he might not. Because he often waits for us to take a step of faith. He often waits for us to dive in, take a step of faith, and say, this may be where I'm at now. I know you can change this. I know you're working in the spiritual background. If you believe in God, then you believe he's working in the spiritual background. You can't have that belief aside from itself. If you believe in God, then you believe he's working in the spiritual background. Now, if you believe as a deist that God's just this powerful being who just set us on the ground and let us go do our thing and doesn't really care about us, then you might need to deny things like the common blessings. Because why would a deist God who pops us on the earth and doesn't care after that, why would he even give 5 seconds of thought to seeing that we are equipped with food and air and water? Why would he do that? Why would he spend the time? So I hope that you can relate to that this Thanksgiving, and I hope that you can also find someone to tell that, hey, please don't tell me Happy Thanksgiving, because it's not. Instead, maybe just make some time one-on-one with me. I hope that helps. There's great news with President Trump and these millennials and Gen Z, et cetera, and I want to dig into that. There's a trend with these guys, too. They don't believe anything. And in a way, God bless them, but in a way that's very risky because they can shy away from the word of God because, it's just one more authority. It's just one more authority telling me something I don't necessarily believe, but dang it, they don't trust government. And they are looking into independent ways to pursue things for themselves. They're into raw milk. They're into raw honey. They're into sourcing their own food. I mean, in some ways, veganism, my daughter's a vegan. In some ways, that can be a mania, a madness. But in other ways, people are doing this pursuing their own health. They don't trust what the authorities say. They understand they're not authorities. They understand they're mobbed up. They're going to be the generation that's going to adopt healthcare that's outside of the insurance equilibrium. There's been a 36% growth year over year in direct patient care facilities. That's what Renew.Healthcare is. They're a direct patient care facility, and they simply must be located in Mexico because unless RFK Jr. gets to legalize the use of live stem cells, because those are not legal in the United States, they'll stay in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And the difference is pretty clear. I mean, if you say your doctor says you should eat some probiotics, okay, I'll have some yogurts. I'll bake it into a cake. I'll take live yogurts with live cultures and I'll bake it into a cake. What happens to the live cultures? You kill them. You have the taste of the yogurt, but not the effect of the yogurt. In the United States, when they take stem cells and put them in your body, the first thing they do is lyse them, chop them up, basically. They kill them. Secondly, in most cases, they're using your stem cells, which cannot turn around and build muscle or tendon because they usually come out of bone marrow. The difference in Puerto Vallarta at Renew.Healthcare is these are live stem cells, then cultured, so there's more of them, with all the building power. So you may not need MCL, ACL surgery. You may not need to have a lower back surgery. You may be able to recover 1,000 times faster from the surgeries you do have to have. I am witness to this twice. Go to Renew.Healthcare. It's RENUE.Healthcare. And please tell them you're part of the Todd Herman Show family, and they will tell you if they can help you or not. And get down to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Beautiful resort down there. It's beautiful, all-inclusive resort. It's about 10 minutes walk from Renew.Healthcare, RENUE.Healthcare. Workers, this comes from Unusual Whales, great follow on Twitter. Usually they track financial happenings, and they're pretty good at spotting insider trading out of D.C. Workers in the 22 to 24 age group are earning just $45,493 compared with the $51,000 that millennials took home, $51,852 that millennials took home at the same age when adjusting for inflation per TransUnion. Inflation is causing Gen Z to rack up debt. So millennials are right when they look at this, and Gen Z is right when they look at the economy and say, yeah, but we can't afford to live on our own. They're right. And this is causing a bunch of young people to want to turn to someone who's going to do something to change the economy. They have grown up largely with Democrats, aside from 4 years of President Trump. And they weren't immune to watching the economy under President Trump. A lot of these people of this age are Bitcoin people. So they have grown up tracking economies. They've grown up with apps that can track their spending. A lot of them use these apps. A lot of them don't trust Social Security, nor should you. It's utterly bankrupt. It's a pyramid scheme that's completely bankrupt, structurally bankrupt. So they use apps like Robinhood, which is, by the way, a scam on the back end, but that's okay. So in credit card debt, in 2013, average credit card debt was $2,248. It's now $2,834. Auto was 19,043. It's now 21,767. Unsecured personal loans, 4,981. It's now 5,273. Mortgage, 149,130. It's now $215,000. Credit card debt's up 26.1%. Autos up 14.3%. Unsecured personal loans, 5.9%. Mortgage up 44.3%. So there's that old saying, that cliche, it's the economy, stupid. It is. But the so-called social issues come on top of this. Republicans like to call them social issues because they're icky. And they make Republicans feel ooky because they don't know how to talk about them. And so they get all itchy and weird. But the fact of the matter is this, that in historic numbers, young people are breaking for President Trump. And the numbers are impressive. President Trump has seen a huge increase in young people choosing him as someone they believe can lead the country out of this economic morass. And when you examine the numbers and you get down into the numbers, you understand that these may not be all that temporary. These may be permanent changes to how young people view this economy. And when I said the social issues come on top of that, here's what I mean. Social issues are a communication as to how sane or insane your leadership is. So young people who've grown up and had been characteristically, of course, tolerant of same-sex attracted people and people with a different view of sexuality, etc., people with a different view of gender, have spent the last 15 years having this stuff shoved down their throats. And they look at leaders and bosses, political bosses, who are telling them things like, a boy is a girl and a girl is a boy, like stay home, stay safe. And they're saying, okay, so you're the people we're going to trust with our money? We don't think so. And it's come out to be in the political arena. We've seen in a side-by-side comparison across these young age groups up to 15% increase in young people, 22 to 24, 25 to 54, 25 to 34, up to a 15% increase depending on where they live for President Trump, which comes along with his policies. There is a guy named Scott Presler. And do you know who he is? It's funny the other day. My wife showed me this video. She came to me and said, and my wife is pretty on top of things. And she came to me and she showed me this video of this guy. She said, is this guy for real? She was talking about what he did for turnout in Pennsylvania. I said, oh yeah, Scott's been doing this for years. So this is a guy named Scott Presler. And years ago, he decided that he wanted to make it his mission in life to drive turnout, because turnout can win elections. So he chose the state of Pennsylvania. And Scott goes to event after event. He knocks on doors. He's done a great job of making this cool on social media. He's recruited people to join him on social media to go do these things. And Scott's had this incredible success. Scott may well have won Pennsylvania for Republicans. So he learned that CNN wanted to do a piece on him. Now that's interesting because, of course, let's look at the election the way CNN cheered it on. The last election, not this one. Drop boxes with hundreds, maybe thousands of ballots, people dropping them off. No matching signatures in many cases. No voter ID. No security around those drop boxes. Anybody can go drop them off. The truck trailers bringing ballots, completed ballots from one state to another. Thousands of tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of completed ballots going from one state to another. And CNN cheered that all on. That wasn't the least bit controversial. Not checking voter IDs, not the least bit controversial. But Scott Presler, a guy with super long hair, I understand to be same-sex attracted, I understand to be pretty stinking moderate. He'd at one point been offered a job at the RNC, and then I think the RNC turned him down because maybe he was too independent. But to their credit, they gave Scott credit. To their credit, they worked with him. To their credit, they brought him in to do turnout training. This guy's figured it out. So I'll show you here in a second how CNN views this guy, because they've used that magic word, controversial. CNN has determined that Scott Presler is controversial. How did they do that? They simply looked at him and said, hey, let's make him controversial. I shared with you the other day fantastic news, and I hope that you'll celebrate this with us. I am deeply thankful to the Bioptimizers Company They've been with us roughly since the start of this podcast. Last year, they sent me a platinum award for you guys working with their company. Matt and Wade sent me a note a couple weeks ago that they're going all in on Black Friday for us. So they've taken 25% off absolutely everything at their site. I've talked with you about Magnesium Breakthrough. That's become a world famous product. You can get that at bioptimizers.com/Todd. Use promo code Todd to get 25% off. I've recently been talking about Masszymes. Amazing product. This is something that can help you sustain muscle. It may even help you grow muscle. How could I make such a claim? Because it produces 1,200% more amino acids in the bodies of people who consume it. Amino acids build proteins. Proteins build muscle. And this comes around in a very bioavailable form. I've been taking it for a couple of years. Only got to talk about it recently. P3RM, the probiotic that makes sure that your body breaks down foods more efficiently. Sleep Breakthrough. If you're in a profession where sometimes you have to be ultra geeked, so caffeine or ultra awake or it's super, super stressful, Sleep Breakthrough on top of Magnesium Breakthrough is a stack that I've never found that would fail me. They have advanced proteins. They have gut health formula stacks. All of this ready for you. They also have books. Matt and Wade know what they're talking about with the human body. Okay, it's bioptimizers.com/Todd. Use promo code Todd to get 25% off everything at the site. And when you go to bioptimizers.com/Todd and use promo code Todd, you also qualify for $100 in free gifts. That from Matt and Wade at Bioptimizers. So here's CNN. Scott Presler pointed out this piece on Twitter. He said, here's the hit piece CNN did on me. How is registering voters controversial? I must be doing something right.
The controversial conservative activist, Scott Presler, who's involved in the group Gays for Trump, a vocal election denier, goes by the Twitter handle, The Persistence. He helped deliver that all-important must-win state for Trump.
So he's an election denier. That must be why he is so utterly controversial. Oh, wait, Hillary Clinton's an election denier. Oh, wait. Chucky Schumer was an election denier. We know the game. Selected, not elected. Goes all the way back to George W. Bush. So wait a minute. Why is this guy controversial?
In large part by focusing on, as he says, the Amish, frat guys, and hunters, among other groups. And Presler, as our Ellie Reeve reports, is just getting started.
He was at the Capitol on January 6th. And
Oh, that must be why it's controversial. He was at a place where the president gave a speech.
Trump's return to the scene of his near assassination in Butler.
Do you hear the tone of this? Do you hear he was at the Capitol on January 6th. Do you hear the music?
Trump took a bullet for us.
Last week, Presler was in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, because of a controversy over what ballots would be counted in the Senate recount.
A controversy. Let's see if they'll talk about the controversy. Because this was not just a controversy, it was something very precise.
A frustrated county commissioner had said some misdated and unsigned ballots would be counted despite the rules.
If I violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it.
This went very viral, in part because of Presler.
Let's see if they get to the actual constitutional crisis here. Let's see.
She apologized at the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
The passion in my heart got the best of me, and I apologize again for that. I made a mistake.
But by then, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court had ruled those ballots wouldn't be counted.
And do you remember the detail? They're going to talk here about Presler, who's so controversial.
Presler and his fans had won. Yet they turned out anyway, and the room had a kind of intense vibe.
If we take that commissioner's words in the worst possible light, let's say she truly meant rules don't apply and she could count ballots that shouldn't be.
They kept counting. Even after the Supreme Court said, I believe a third time, you don't get to do this. The Supreme Court had already said, you don't get to do this, and they kept doing it. But Scott Presler is controversial. And if you're watching the video version of this, you can see, man, he is absolutely evil looking. Just so scary.
She still failed to steal the election, right? Like, you guys still won Pennsylvania and Bucks County. So help me reconcile that with your past, with the Stop the Steal movement in 2020. Like, why could it have been stolen once but not a second time?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If we let them get away with doing this now, They'll do it in 2026. They'll do it in 2028. This was us peacefully putting our feet down and saying, no, enough is enough, and we're not going to allow you to do illegal and unlawful actions. And we're going to hold you accountable.
I noticed that when you urge people to action,
Yes.
you often include the word
Peacefully.
Is that to avoid another Jan 6 type incident?
With all due respect, it's to avoid people like you guys saying that I'm anything but.
Pressler first got attention in 2017 when he worked for an anti-Muslim group and organized marches against Sharia, despite there being no Sharia law in America. He was also involved with Gays for Trump.
Wow. He's part of an anti-Muslim group. No. He's part of an anti-Sharia law group, despite there being no Sharia law in America. There's not? There are entire portions of Minnesota that are Muslim-owned. And Sharia law is practiced in families and in Muslim schools. And we are importing people in record numbers who believe Sharia should be placed upon the country. We're importing their attitudes. That's not anti-Muslim. It's anti-Sharia law. It's anti-changing our system into Sharia. There's none of it here. It's in the Quran. It's in the teachings. It's being promoted in places like Dallas, Texas. The entire tone of that is why people are absolutely correct when they have feelings of hatred for the media. Please don't hate her. It's so easy to fall into that trap. Please be thankful that God has revealed this to us. Other people get to hate her guts. And I'll tell you something, it's a lot of fun, man. I miss the old days of talk radio where I could take that lady and rip her to utter shreds or play some trick to get her on the show and destroy her. That was really satisfying. Have people on the show or in the studio and see them start to shake and shiver and cry. Man, that was fun. I loved myself. I was so proud of those interviews. Other people can, we as Christians can't. We can mock that piece for the scary music, mock it for them trying to make this guy into a scary guy when all he does is turn out or fighting against Sharia law in a peaceful way. But unfortunately or fortunately, we don't get to hate her. Which one is it? Well, if you believe that the Lord Jesus is the Messiah who's come to rescue us, he is our Savior, then we have to believe this. He who supplies mercy will receive it. So we have to hate or have to love our enemies. See, I just about said the other. So you're right to hate what the media does. I'm right to hate what the media does. I'm right to hate that piece. You're right to hate that piece. And the new CEO of Axios, a guy, very smart guy, has been in the business a long time, Jim Vanderhaven, used to be a reporter. He was at Politico, et cetera. He is an absolute beast of the beast. He responded to something that Elon Musk tweeted, and you can see by his emotional response that he took it very, very seriously. But pieces like that are why Elon Musk, to a degree, was right about what he said. So wait until you hear the panic in this guy's voice. Utterly disconnected from why Elon Musk can say what he says, because Elon Musk is operating in a fuller reality than Jim Vanderhaven is. Completely different reality. My friend Alan operates in a reality so different from ours. He's 14. He's been through about 18 operations. And I want you to imagine something. Let's say that you had the very best idea in the world. You knew it, you tested it, but you couldn't communicate it. You couldn't say a word about it. Let's say that you were super passionate about something. Maybe it's a piece of music you've heard. Your friends have to hear it, but you can't share it. You're unable to share it. That's how Alan has lived for many, many years. See, he is profoundly affected by autism, and yet he's a brilliant kid. That shows through how he is able to manipulate the game Minecraft and be expert at that. When he does speak, and it's an effort, his mom can understand him through sort of an iPad he uses, but in his mind, there's all these creations. This is manifested at alansoaps.com. So Alan has taken these times in his life that are super meaningful to him, interactions often with his grandparents, and he has put those into soaps, into scents of soaps. Now, Alan can't make the soap. He is nonverbal. He's been through about 18 operations, but he works there every day. He invents the soap. So his dad recruited a family from the old world. They have 3 generations of soap-making expertise, so they take these ideas, these special moments in Alan's mind, and they'll make soap, all natural, made in America, no chemicals, around these ideas. There's now 2 other young people, Ian and Amy, who work at Alan Soaps because that's the mission. The soap is amazing. It's the best soap you'll have. The mission is even better. It's putting truth to the fact that all lives matter. By employing people like this, that is the actual mission. And since you've been buying soap from them, we've gone from 1 employee to 3. So if you haven't helped us with this yet, help yourself with the best soap you'll ever have and show that to you all lives really do matter. Go to alansoaps.com/Todd. Get 10% off all the products there. It's alansoaps.com/Todd. This is the new CEO of Axios responding to Elon Musk, who tweeted, "You are the media now."
Everything we do is under fire. Elon Musk sits on Twitter every day, or X today, saying like, we are the media, you are the media. My message to Elon Musk is, bullshit. You're not the media. You having a blue check mark, a Twitter handle, and 300 words of cleverness doesn't make you a reporter. You don't do that by popping off on Twitter. You don't do that by having an opinion. You do it by doing the hard work.
Yeah, come on, slow clap, everybody. Whoa. First of all, I've got to say, extraordinary content. It needed to be said.
Yeah.
It continues to need to be said. When all of the garbage is flying around on social media, lying about reporters, lying about the hard work they do, lying about the hard work editors do, lying about everything up and down, about not only their alternative set of facts, but alternative set of facts about what people like you do. Or if social media, people lying every day, every hour, every minute about the news. What you do matters. What the New York Times does matters. What the Wall Street Journal does matters.
Got it. It was the New York Times who recently said that RFK Jr. claims that Fruit Loops has more ingredients in the United States than the UK. And then they said, but he's wrong. And then their own fact check, they admitted he's right. Not only more ingredients, but poison ingredients like dyes and manufactured chemicals, which are not in Fruit Loops in the UK. We just played CNN pretending that Scott Presler is controversial because they decided he was controversial. We could go through a montage of Morning Joe explaining, after they'd had President Trump on many, many times, had him on the phone, promoted his campaign, they turned on a dime, and President Trump at that time, President wannabe Trump, was a Russian asset, a Russian mole. We can play you the montages of the facts they stated, that President Trump would put people in prison camps, that he would start World War III, that he would bring North Korea to the brink of nuclear war, that nuclear war would happen during his tenure, that he would be soft on Russia, and yet Russia waited until after Trump was gone to invade Ukraine. We can play time and time and time again. Anytime I want to, I can go grab media malfeasance. To Van Hee's point, the other day there was an ambulance at Mar-a-Lago. Did you hear about this? So there was some first responders at Mar-a-Lago, and then there was a motorcade that left, and the media broke the story that President Trump had had a medical situation. That this aged man, because they've been trying to make that case forever, that he's just as decrepit as the people who, as Joe Biden, figurehead Biden, they started to run with this story. On Twitter, in a matter of minutes, someone within the meeting tweeted, "No, that's not what happened. I'm sitting here with President Trump right now. He's fine." That made the rounds on Twitter as the media continued to pitch the idea that President Trump had had some horrible medical occurrence. That's not being the media. That's being panic mongers. There are countless examples of independent journalists like unusual whales, going through and doing a report about the finances of people 22 to 24 years old. There are countless examples of independent media doing things like discovering the Bucks County situation. That wasn't reported by the Mockingbird media. They didn't make a national story of an attempt in broad daylight to steal a senatorial election. That was done by independent journalists. We played during the campaign an independent journalist in Washington State who discovered that you can get a ballot printed, an official ballot you print at home, using a fake name at a real address. That was not the work of the media. That was the work of an independent journalist. What Vandy He cannot understand any longer is that people do not any longer need that filter. We can all turn to source data. We can all download this. We can all analyze it, but we're not the special ones. What would make the Mockingbird media special again is if they stopped being the Mockingbird media. If when the government came and told them a thing, they'd say, who says? And check it on their own. But well, on a daily basis, I could, if I wanted to be a lazy host, I could just do a show based on Newsbusters every single day. Well, maybe we'll do that. I actually asked Alex to make a little montage of, speaking of Newsbusters, of how ABC, CBS, and NBC reported Jack Smith dropping the January 6th case against President Trump. Jack Smith is now a 4-time loser on cases like this. Jack Smith was said that he was going to save the republic. Suddenly he dropped his case. And is he going to be one of the people who flee the country? Because there's reports from independent journalists of people who worked at the DOJ making sure their passports are in good order because they know about the corruption that they installed and tried to install in the country. All of this is going to affect you. No matter how this corruption plays out, whether we get justice on this earth or we have to wait for the justice that God will employ, it's going to affect you, particularly your retirement. Mitch McConnell is now going to be on the most powerful committee in the Senate. He's going to run it. It's the Rules Committee. John Thune, the new Republican leader who promised that he would do anything possible to help President Trump's agenda, saw to it that the people who run Mitch McConnell, because Mitch isn't running anything, is going to head the Rules Committee. So John Thune now gets to turn and say, well, this is how Mitch McConnell's running the committee, not a lot I can do. It seems to me to be a setup. So what's going to happen with your retirement in the war between the people on Team Trump and the people who run Mitch McConnell? However it breaks out, I don't think buy and hold is going to get it done for you. That's my analysis. So do this. Go get a free analysis of your retirement plans and ask Zach Abraham, my friend and brother at Bulwark Capital Management. He's the chief investment officer there. Get a private call. You can do it on Zoom, Google Meet, whatever your video platform is. You could go there in person and just do the phone. And Zach will help you decide if your retirement is in a plan. Do you have a retirement plan? Or do you have some dreams and hopes? Zach's definition of a successful retirement is this. You know exactly how much money you will have every month for the rest of your life. Do you have a plan or a wish? Go to knowyourriskradio.com. That's KNOW, knowyourriskradio.com, or call them at 866-779-RISK. He'll have this meeting with you for absolutely no obligation, no charge. It's a freebie. KnowYourRiskRadio.com or 866-779-RISK.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.
Jack Smith, as President Trump called him, the deranged Jack Smith, is the latest in prosecutors to drop the case against Trump. Judge Merchan, the deeply corrupt judge in New York City, has delayed the sentencing. May want that case basically disappeared. Remember, this was vital to the republic that Trump go to prison. Here's how CBS, ABC, and NBC, this is the tone of their reporting, over Jack Smith jettisoning his own case.
So, look, this indictment, this involves the 3 conspiracies Donald Trump is accused of in an effort to cling to power after the 2020 election. And it marked an extraordinary moment in American history. This is the first ever accusation that a sitting president committed crimes in an effort to cling to power. The dismissal also...
This is the first time? It is? Wait, what was Watergate? It's the first time? Huh. That's weird.
Marks an extraordinary moment. 50 years after Richard Nixon was forced by lawmakers from both parties to resign the presidency amid allegations of criminal conduct, half of American voters discounted equally serious charges of criminal misconduct in office against Donald Trump. They returned Mr. Trump to the presidency. And if the lesson of Watergate was that no one was above the law, the lesson of the Trump era is that a majority of Americans have decided that this principle no longer applies.
This historic case against Donald Trump for allegations he tried to conspire to overturn an election and with ties to that horrific attack on the Capitol January 6th. That case is dying with a whimper today. A 6-page, narrow filing from the special counsel saying can't charge a president or try a president for a crime when he is the president. In the words of Jack Smith, it's an undue burden on a future President Trump to have this criminal prosecution. What's more, and what's particularly noteworthy in this filing, Nancy, is Jack Smith says we can't even hold this in abeyance until 2029 and the end of his second and final term, that's too much of a burden on a president, too. This case must be dismissed, Jack Smith argues. No doubt Donald Trump's team will agree to this dismissal. It goes back to the D.C. federal judge who's navigated this case for 16 months, Tanya Chutkan, to decide whether to accept this dismissal. There's no indication in any of this case so far she would do anything but follow what the prosecutors recommend.
This case, the January 6th case, never got before a jury, and I'm sure there'll be questions that'll be asked about whether or not this case should have started earlier, so it didn't come up right up against a presidential election, but it never got before a jury. But you could argue that it got before something much larger than a typical jury. 150 million Americans who voted on November 5th and elected Donald Trump president of the United States. That has effectively ended all of this. He ultimately will not be held to account in the criminal court system for his actions to overturn the presidential election of 2020.
His actions to overturn, alleged. So the media, Jane VandeHei is very, very upset that Elon Musk says you are the media. Well, in that case, the nation was the jury. Is it as the media said there, that people decided that the law doesn't matter, that President Trump is above the law? Or is it that a jury of Americans, including young Americans who have broken for President Trump in record numbers, looked at this and said, you guys are just so obvious? The reason they waited to have the case just prior to the election was because it was never a case they were going to win. Remember this, President Trump was not charged with an insurrection. You know that, right? There were no charges in the Jack Smith case that President Trump led an insurrection, because there couldn't be those charges because it would require discovery. That would open the door for President Trump's team to look at Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, what they did to invite the rioters into the Capitol. So VandeHei says BS to Musk. Young people are turning to President Trump. They're looking at their wallets, and it's all social issues that people want to talk about. They want to talk about the economy. The economy and social issues are absolutely inexorably tied together. You've heard me say, and if you haven't, this is the first time you hear it, there's no such thing as a social conservative or fiscal conservative and social liberal. No such thing. It is impossible to be fiscally conservative and socially liberal, because social liberalism leads to the insane ideas that we've watched confront this nation. The easiest one to reach for is always going to be a boy's a girl because he says so. But you can also reach into kindergartners should be taught sexual techniques. And if it's just at that point touching themselves, they should be taught that by teachers in private. Parents shouldn't know. This series of insane ideas that get into kids' minds make it impossible for them to discern the truth, such as a debt is a real thing. You can't just cancel it. You can make other people pay it, but it can't be canceled. So DNC Chair Donna Brazile, she's also in denial, like Jim Vandehey's in denial, like the Mockingbird Media's in denial about the Jack Smith case. She knows why people didn't vote for President Trump. It's not the social issues, or rather she knows why they didn't vote for Kami. It has nothing to do with the insanity.
While I do believe that they made significant gains, there's no question immigration became an issue. But I'm not going to get into this, oh, the people are too damn woke. That wasn't an issue. What happened?
Yeah, it was.
I disagree with you.
I know, and that's why you're going to keep losing.
No, man, look.
I mean, it's not to go. Okay, but not to go back to the.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that after the?
So the people are too stinking woke. She's not going to buy that. Do you see the bubble? We started by talking about young people. Young people are characteristically wanting to be accepting of others, characteristically wanting to be kind. And we're broken. We're sinful. We're broken people. But when you have reached the age of 22, and every day of your life you have been told you will celebrate that form of sexuality, you will think it's better than your form, you will pretend that boy is a girl, you will let us take you behind closed doors and show you perverse pictures, and you don't get to tell your parents. You will, if you're white, admit you're an oppressor. You're basically a slaveholder. You're going to get a pushback. Yes, too stinking woke. Dr. Carol M. Swain's book is always going to be one of the most important publications most people will never read. It's called The New White Supremacy. She was a black academic who wondered, how is it that all of a sudden we appear to be seeing a resurgence in white supremacist activity? You know what she discovered? The dynamic of having accusations of racism shoved down people's throats. You push, you get a pushback. Equal and opposite reactions. Let us not give in to the temptation on this Thanksgiving to separate our families based upon these lines. If that has happened, may I encourage you to write a note, say, I miss you. It saddens me that we're not getting together. Because Satan's job is to destroy the things that God loves. God loves family. How do we know? Because he invented it. Please don't give in to that. And again, if Thanksgiving is hard for you, because you're alone, because you do not want to be in a room full of happy people and intact families, please find at least one person you can tell that to so that you can at least be alone with them, and in that way not lonely, for it is not good that man is alone. This is the Todd Herman Show. Please go be well, be strong, be kind, and please make every effort to walk in the light of Christ.